I'm 28 years old, living with my parents by choice. I wish that moving out in your 20s wasn't the American norm. It was the cost of living today. I don't think it's a terrible thing to continue living with your parents in your younger 20s, right? Younger 20s. Now, when you get to your mids, whatnot, maybe try to get out. Of course, this lady is 28. However, I do have to say, there's a difference between men and women. Men should try to get out of the house as fast as possible because men who live at home have a very hard time dating. Most women will not date a guy who still lives at home with his parents. There's some exceptions, I get it, and I know there's going to be women who comment, I'm not like that, blah, blah, right? Okay, I get it, you're the exception of the rule. But women can stay home and guys don't care. Women can stay home and guys don't give a crap at all. Well, of course, I'm just jumping to conclusions here, but usually there's a video at the end of this. Let me scroll down. Here we go.
So I'm 27 and I live at home with my parents. And no, it's not because I'm not able to afford to move out or because I'm codependent, but I just don't agree with the culture and pressure to move out once you reach a certain point in your life. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have parents that are kind of a pain to live with, it totally makes sense to move out. But luckily for me, I have the privilege to have pretty chill parents who are very open-minded and quite fun to live with. By no means are my parents perfect, and I've gotten into many heated arguments with them, but at the end of the day, I feel so much happier being able to see them every day and to get through those conflicts with them. And yeah, to be frank, I live rent-free. I do contribute to the household and pay certain bills, but for the most part, I'm able to save that rent money and use it to invest in my own finances. I'm definitely a firm believer that you shouldn't have to do what everyone else is doing just because everyone else is doing it. You know what works best for you, and just disregard what stigma tells you. I know myself, and I know I will be thankful for the time I spent with my parents. And to me, that's the type of luxury that is irreplaceable.
This is a good video, and I think this should go for young adults. But there should be a sit down with their kid, right, and the parents. You can stay home, but you work and you contribute to the house. You know, she pays bills, which is great. As long as you're not mooching off your parents, right? And being a complete bum. But if you're starting your career, you're going to school or whatever, and your parents sit down just like, hey, whatever money you have, it needs to go to like savings. It needs to be invested. You have to buy a car. Don't freaking pull out a loan to get a car. You know, watch your credit cards. Always pay them off. Just a good plan. A good financial plan. And I feel like a lot of us who struggled growing up, right, probably would do that too with their kids, being like, hey, you know, you can move out anytime you want, but we can develop a plan that when you move out of the house, you're set, you're ready. You're not going to be struggling the way I did growing up. I know there's like the social norms and stigma, right, of living at home in your early 20s. Don't get me wrong, I moved out as fast as possible. I think I was 19. Not 18. And it's just the same reason. I wanted to impress women. That's how guys are. And I knew women would not date me unless I moved out of the house. I even had women go, oh, you still live at home? Late 18s or maybe 19, I don't remember. I was out. Young, naive, I get it. Right, we've all been there. I think the big thing is to save up for a house. Like, just talk to your kids. A house is expensive. And we want you to save so you can put 20% down so you can avoid PMI, right? Unless you go up to the military and you're a veteran, you get VA loan. But for most people, right, most young adults, they're not going to have the 20% down, which is what now, like 100,000 is 20% down if the average home is 400,000, maybe more, right? So to come up with that kind of money is not easy. It's going to take a while. Now, to find a partner who's like can really understand that, because you know when you're 18 and whatnot, the primary objective is like, I don't care what it is, get out of the house to impress me, live on your own to impress me. Now, there's plenty of pros to live on your own. You learn to be independent. You force yourself how to cook. You could learn at home how to cook, but you know, you could get spoiled at home. I learned how to cook when I got out of home because, I grew up with a Mexican mom. She loved to cook. She fed us. She never taught me how to cook. I think the only time she taught me how to cook anything was maybe eggs, and that was about it. But I did grow up with like parents I'd rather just do things for me instead of teaching me things. So it was good for me to move out on my own because in order to do things like laundry, I had to learn how to do it. I didn't learn how to do laundry until I was out of the house. I didn't learn a lot of things until I moved out of the house. And when things are expensive, you don't make that much money when you're young. You try to figure out maybe I could fix it. Maybe I can do something else to get what I need. It kind of when you're really pushed up against the fence, then you really learn how to push back and get things right, and that's how you grow. But of course, I don't have kids yet, but and especially kids who are going to become adults. But if I were to talk to me, my younger self, now knowing what I know now, it definitely would be like, okay, if you're going to stay in the house, which is I have no problem with, just you should really save money, get a house, get a car. Don't get a loan on a car. Just all these things that I wish I knew growing up that my parents did not know. Because my parents, just like any typical immigrants that move here, they just work hard, work hard, work hard. They didn't really understand the concept. And it's not of their own fault. That it's not about working hard. It's working smart. And if you're going to work hard, it should be working hard for yourself, not for someone else, not for an employer. So this is kind of like the advice I wish I could give myself, my younger self, right? But let's see what other people have to say in the comment section. Okay, one person says, I live in New Jersey. The cost of living in this state is ridiculous. Rent would consume at least half of my take-home pay. I'm forced to stay at my father's house. He's 76. I help him with things around the house, pay bills, repairs, etc. Yeah, I mean, if besides rent, but you have some extra money that you can help out with your family with, I understand it, especially with cost of living. It kind of sets people back, and more people are living at home. But there is still that stigma that if you want to attract a mate, you have to move out of the house. This doesn't apply to women. This applies for men. You have to move out of the house because women who live at home find a guy who lives on his own that would want to spend more time with them because he has his own place. This way, they're not stuck at home. Living with your parents is not the same as living off your parents. People used to live their whole lives with their parents, first as highly productive members of the household and later as caretakers. Nothing wrong with this. Being a parasite, however, having your parents support you like you are their feudal lord and they owed you tribute is wrong. Okay, I totally agree with that. I love that phrase, live with your parents, not living off your parents. That's probably how this video probably should have started out. I wish I saw this comment first. Yes, living with your parents is totally different than living off your parents. If you live off your parents, that's not right. There's something wrong there. But if you live with your parents and you support however you can, you have a good game plan, that is what I support. My parents supported me even when I was old enough to take care of myself. I will always be grateful that I was able to help them when they were too old to take care of themselves. It's a family thing. I love the family orientation of this. I don't think there's anything wrong living with your parents. Because, what great difference is it that, okay, you move on your own, and then your parents later move with you, and that's okay. But if you stay in the house that you grew up in, even if you take over financially, it kind of has a weird stigma, unless you really have to explain your story to people for them to maybe understand you. But it is such a great thing to take care of your parents. And if you can live with them, it makes life easier to take care of them. This way you can always monitor them, watch them. Because, people get old, terrible things happen. Like a fall is so much more fatal now for an older person than it is a younger person. There's so many things that can happen. So I don't know what the stigma is about you have to seriously move out or you won't be anything. You're not attractive. My daughter lives off me. She is 38 years old and has never lived on her own. 1, rent is too expensive. 2, she has worked hard all her life. 3, she pays her fair share of the bills. 4, she doesn't mooch off of me. 5, she is now a caregiver. 6, we have a great relationship, and that's great for that family. The only thing is that that's a female. If it was a 38-year-old male still living with their parents, that's going to be really hard to date. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's really hard to date. With a 38-year-old female, no problem finding a date. I don't know many 20-year-olds on their own in this high inflation society we currently live in. You know what? I'm near my 40s, and I don't know enough 20-year-olds, young 20-year-olds, young adults to know if they're still living at home, what their struggles are like. But I know it's hard, in a sense, right? Like, just from the news, like, if I was them making the same amount of money, their pay's not that much different from when I was like 18 through 20, just a little different, sure. But the rent, oh my gosh, I don't know how they paid rent, because me growing up, I had 2 other roommates, and that was like enough. That was okay. Rent was not that bad. But now, even with roommates and with the pay that young adults have to start with, like, I don't even think that's possible. Correct me if I'm wrong, feel free. Nothing wrong with living with parents to save some cash in your 20s, especially given today's inflation. The problem happens when you turn 30 and you're still there and haven't learned basic things that everyone else has. You become, to some extent, a child in an adult's body, and it messes you up a bit. Not saying it can't be overcome. There's a reason most kids are out of their parents' house by 25. So yeah, I mean, that can be true, right? Especially if you haven't learned to save money in your 30s, like, you've been living practically rent free, or maybe your rent is low living with your parents. In today's day and age, we have all the knowledge in the world to understand money. You have YouTube, you have the internet, you have all these things about how to save your money, best way to save your money. Have some discipline, right? Because having money and keeping money, right? It's not about how much money you spend, it's about how much money you keep, or how much money you make, right? It's about how much you keep. Like, that is a discipline in itself, because you have all of these temptations of, like, spending your money, new Nike shoes, get a nice car with a big loan on it, expensive clothes, expensive restaurants, like all these things. But it is important, but it is a discipline to save your money and keep it there. Keep it with you. Have a surplus of where you are bringing in more money into your savings than you are spending it. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a like, comment below. I do read them. And if you made it this far, I feel like I deserve a sub. So please sub. And until next time, bye.